time to go down under. We're going to be talking about Australia today. We'll have our usual economy and standard classes for you to check out. For the economy class, we're going to have you fly into Sydney. For the standard class, we're going to have you fly into Brisbane, which was our favorite city while we were there. So those flights will be $621 and $838 respectively. Once you're in Australia, it is definitely not the cheapest place to be. Everything there is overpriced and very expensive. We definitely had to watch our spending while we were there, especially since it was towards the end of our trip when we were running low on funds. So I would definitely say cook your meals at least once a day, preferably twice a day, because you're not going to find a meal for under $10 unless you're eating at McDonald's. So we're going to calculate about $210 to $280 spent on food and drink. Another way to cut costs in Australia is Couchsurfing. I would highly suggest this, especially if you're trying to save money, because it's a free place to stay and you get to meet some pretty incredible people. So definitely go Couchsurfing. So for the economy class, we're going to say you're going to Couchsurf the entire time. For the standard option, we'll say hostel for a week, which will cost you about minimum $15 a night. So let's talk about Brisbane. Brisbane is a beautiful city. It has an incredible skyline. It's got a massive river running right through the middle. It's got some very cool restaurants and some very cool social areas and parks and recreation areas. They even have a man-made beach along the river, which was interesting to say the least. It was pretty cool. They have a mini London Eye along the river. I don't know if they'd actually call it a London Eye, but it looks like it, so I'm going to call it that anyway. Another thing we were able to do with our Couchsurfing host was take a day trip down the coast, and we got to see some beautiful beaches and some incredible scenery more inland. We also went on a pretty wonderful brewery tour. As for Sydney, Sydney has my favorite building that I saw on the entire trip, at least my favorite one to photograph. I spent a couple hours there 2 different days taking photographs of this thing. The Sydney Opera House, probably one of the most photographed buildings in the world, but it's for a good reason, because it's outstanding. Sydney is huge. It felt very much like being in a city in the US. There are so many different boroughs and so many different places you can go. The metro runs all over the place. It's slightly more expensive than here because it's Australia and everything's expensive. But you can definitely get around fairly easily, and it has a lot of coastline and a lot of phenomenal views. A third city that we'll just mention here quickly is Adelaide. In Adelaide, we spent time with one of our friends who we'd met earlier on our trip, and he showed us around town, and Adelaide was a very nice little city, very quiet, not nearly as touristy as Sydney and Brisbane. Inland flights from Brisbane to Sydney, Sydney to Melbourne, Sydney to Adelaide, Adelaide to Brisbane. Those normally cost round trip about $60 depending on the time of year. Most of the time it's pretty cheap, especially if you fly through Jetstar. It's their equivalent of Spirit Airlines here in the US. So if you're trying to get from one city to the other, Jetstar is the way to go. As for activities, plenty of them. As we were saying before, brewery, a little road trip down the coast, skydiving, zoos, aquariums, they have everything, museums. Anything that you could do here in the United States, you can do there in Australia. Plus, kangaroos. And that about does it for the land down under. We will see you next week with our take on Italy and 2 of the cities that you should visit while you're there. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we will see you next time.